As we mentioned last hour, May 7th through the 13th is National Prevention Week. It's a time dedicated to raising awareness about substance abuse in America and promoting positive mental health. Among the various crises facing this country, drugs are one that hits particularly close to home for too many Americans. In 2021, there were more than 106,000 deaths due to drug overdoses in this country, and that roughly equates to nearly 300 per day, or one overdose death every 5 minutes. Many thousands more are dying due to the health impacts of addiction, and millions of lives are impacted by drugs. They're shocking statistics. And in the last hour, we talked about what needs to be done in order to stem the flow and the supply of illegal drugs. Now we're going to take a look at the importance of prevention and getting people the treatment that they need. And here to discuss that is Paulina Pinsky. She is the daughter of Dr. Drew Pinsky, who herself is in recovery, and Jay Jonas, he's the co-founder of the North Jersey Recovery Center. I want to welcome to you both and thank you in advance for sharing this time with us. Paulina, I want to start with you. What made you start using, and when did you realize that you had to tell someone and you had to start getting treatment?
My story's a little bit unconventional just because my dad worked in the field, and at the dinner table, he told us often that when you start using, your brain stops developing. So I was pretty scared for a long time, and I didn't start drinking until I was 18, which is actually pretty late. And really for me, what the drug that took me down was marijuana. I started smoking at the age of 22, and inevitably that's what led me to my bottom. And I think, what sustained my use for so long is that this idea, this rhetoric used to legalize marijuana is backfiring. It's keeping people using and in their addiction when they are powerless over this drug. I would wake up and do a bong rip and vomit every day, which is a phenomenon called cannabinoid hyperemesis, which is chronic vomiting caused by chronic marijuana use. And so there were so many messages in the larger culture telling me that it was medicinal, that it was natural, and all these different things, so that by the time that I was at my bottom, which was December 2021, I was pretty convinced that I was doing the right thing, that smoking weed was better than alcohol and all these other things. That there's so many drugs out there. And so inevitably, what was so kind of complicated about my story is that I had to sort of combat the larger culture that was telling me that cannabis isn't addictive, that it is medicine, that is magic, and it's medical, and inevitably
the industry has spent billions of dollars telling people that. And of course the THC drugs, which that's the drug in marijuana, is a lot more powerful today. Jay, I want to go to you here. The drug crisis goes far beyond what you hear about fentanyl and opioids. There is a push to legalize and commercialize more drugs in America, including high-potency THC. How do we get people to realize that they have a problem and they do need to get clean?
Thanks for having me. I think that if you have a family member or a friend who is suffering from addiction or mental health issues, it's important to look for the signs. And when you see the signs, it's important to act quickly. It's important to get in touch with a mental health or addiction specialist and get some of the right direction.
Jay, what are some of those signs that you mentioned?
Habitual signs. So all the bad habits you could think of: lying, stealing, waking up middle of the day, going to bed erratic hours, manic behavior. The list goes on and on. It's very noticeable, though, for the loved one or the person themselves.
Paulina, as you mentioned, it's so important that the stigma of addiction is reduced and people be more open about their recovery and their treatment. As you mentioned, you have a famous dad. Was it harder for you to come forward because of that? And what is your message for those folks out there who are afraid to admit that they have a problem?
I think because my dad is famous and what he does, I was resistant to being a teetotaler. And that's what pushed me into using more, because I wanted to prove something. But inevitably, when I hit my rock bottom and I found clarity through my situation and understood that, after being trapped in a car with someone in weed-induced psychosis for 3 days, which is true. THC can elicit psychosis in people. Traditionally, it's teenage to 21, but the THC content is so high in marijuana now that you can go into psychosis in your late 20s and early 30s. And that was but the first time that I experienced someone go into weed-induced psychosis in the last 16 months. I've experienced 4 people in the last 16 months. And so for me, when I first came into recovery, it wasn't about spreading a message. It was about pulling my life together and understanding that the way that I was living was not how I wanted to live anymore. But now, I am 501 days sober today. And because I have proximity to my dad's platform, I feel privileged to be able to say I'm a marijuana addict. I'm in recovery. Recovery is possible. And that, the hell that you're living isn't what you have to live anymore if you choose something different. But it's also difficult because so much of addiction is self-deception. And so breaking through that is difficult, and you have to choose it for yourself.
Yeah. Jay, there's been a 145% increase in cannabis use disorder among 12 to 17-year-olds between 2018 and 2021. A statistic that a lot of people don't realize is that the drug is a lot more powerful, 4 times more powerful as it was in 1995. What is your advice for parents as drugs like THC or marijuana and others are becoming far more accessible to kids?
Yeah, so these things are becoming very much so accessible and legalized in many states more and more as the years go on. And basically, listen, ultimately, people are going to use marijuana as it becomes legalized, and inevitably more people are going to become addicted to marijuana and other drugs just as a result of using mind-altering substances. And addiction is something that if you have it and you use mind-altering substances, you will continue to use those substances to cure the problem that is self. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very important for people to realize that it's okay to admit that you have a problem and to start seeking treatment, and for loved ones to focus also on prevention and intervention. Paulina, Jay, in the time that we had this conversation, someone else in America has, according to the earlier statistics, unfortunately died due to their drug addiction. With that in mind, I want to thank you for what you're doing to encourage other people to seek treatment and in helping others. You're both saving lives. Paulina Pinsky and Jay Jonas, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having me.